guys, Marissa here and welcome to my channel. In today's video, I'm going to be showing you how to make a tulle wreath, and we're going to roll the tulle so it's going to have like a bunch of little tubes on it. So to start out, I have an 18-inch wire wreath form. I bought this from Michael's. I have 2 clothespins, a rotary cutter, a pair of scissors. These are pipe cleaners that I cut in half, and this is the 3 different styles of mesh that I'm going to be using. These are all 10 inches, and we have a burlap with red and green stripes, a burlap with red glittery stripes. I got both of these from Kirkland's, and then this is just general 10-inch red mesh that has some red glitter striping from it. I got mine from Big Lots only because I could not find it at any craft stores, but you could generally pick this up at Joann's, Michael's, any local craft store. And then I also have my cutting mat here. This is what I use for sewing, but today I'm going to be using it to help me cut all of my tulle. So the pattern that I'm going to be using is going to be 2 pieces of red mesh for every piece of red and burlap and red green and burlap. So I'll have one of this, and then 2 red. So I'll have 4 rolls total per bunch, and I'm not exactly sure how many bunches I'm going to be needing, so I'm just going to start making them and then start putting them on, and I might have to come back and make more. So I'm going to cut all of my pieces of mesh 10 inches. So I'm gonna just lay it down. I'm using my cutting mat, and the numbers on here are backwards, which is working out better for me anyways. So I'm just starting from right to left, measuring 10 inches, holding it down, and then cutting it. So I already started cutting some of my mesh, and I have some pre-made bunches set off to the side, so that's why my mesh is so small. I do have another roll of mesh, red mesh, set off to the side in case I need it, because I am going through the red mesh obviously a lot faster than the other 2 rolls. So just cut your mesh 10 inches. You could easily layer all of the meshes together while doing this. I choose not to, just because I can easily see my 10-inch line while doing it this way, and that way I know that I'm cutting the edges of my mesh pretty straight. They don't have to be exact, but you do want them to be generally straight, just because if not, you will have some little corners that stick out, and it'll make sure that you don't, by the end, have a piece that's really crooked or an odd shape. On to the next. Same thing, I'm just going to unroll this and cut them 10 inches. And you could also just as well use the 16 inches, the larger rolls of mesh. You can use the larger rolls of mesh for this as well. I just prefer the smaller mesh because when using the larger mesh, it does get pretty large. So if you're looking to make a large, very large wreath, then the larger mesh would work perfectly. General rule is when we roll these, we're going to be measuring them in half. So you're kind of going to use like half of it. So you just take your mesh and you roll it up, and then when you go to pinch it, your bunches are going to come together like this. So when you use the larger rolls, I can't remember if they're 18 inches, but if they are, then that means you would have 9 inches of tulle from your wreath form. So I personally like to use the 10 inches just because it still comes out a nice full large wreath, but it doesn't come out overbearing. So roll your tube of mesh, and then I like to use clothespins to hold them in place while I'm rolling the other tubes. You don't have to use the clothespins. I just find it to be a lot easier. I know some people can do this and they can just hold it between their fingers. I find that the mesh sticks to itself and all the other pieces, so it's a lot easier to use both hands to create your tubes and then use your clothespin to hold them together while you finish the other tubes in your bunch. So, like I said, I used the red and burlap mesh and the burlap red and green mesh. Once I have all of those done, I'm gonna take my pipe cleaner. I cut my pipe cleaners in half. They are a little bit short, but I like to wrap it around and just pinch it back here, and I try to twist that pipe cleaner on there as tight as I can, and that's what creates my bunch. So I just leave them like this, and then when you get them on the wreath, you can kind of pull them apart, you know, make all of the pieces more visible, and then when you attach them to your wreath, the other bunches are going to help push those up. So this is really going to be what you're looking at almost, is your bunches are going to be like this if you put them in there tight. If you do them a little looser, you could definitely leave your bunches wide and open like this. Personally, I like to pinch them in there pretty tight and get them to look like little crazy tubes of mesh. I just think it looks so fun and has so much character. So once again, my red mesh was towards the center, so it's kind of curling naturally, but you curl those tubes up. They're generally about an inch and a half wide. There is no specification as to how big or small they need to be. It's all personal preference. And then as far as the pattern that I'm using for which way I layer, so as you can see, I'm like layering my pieces of mesh as I create the bunches. I have been sticking to a few different patterns just so that I can see a little variation of all the different meshes that I have. So like the first one I did, it was 2 red, red and burlap, red and green burlap, and then this one's going to be red, red and burlap, red, red and green burlap, and then I'll also flip that as well. So I never put any of my red pieces of mesh on the top of my bunch. So like I said, it's all personal preference, but I really want to show off my burlap mesh just because it's so unique. It's not something that you find at all craft stores, so I want to show that off, and I want to kind of make this wreath more fun and whimsical, but also a little bit rustic as well, taking play into that burlap. And these go fairly quick. This is something great for you to, you know, set your computer up in front of you, watch some YouTube while you do this, listen to the radio. It does take a little bit of time, but once you get the hang of it, it's just kind of one of those mindless activities, and this is honestly, getting all of these little bunches together is what takes the longest. So I'm gonna go ahead and finish up the rest of what I have. I will come back and then we will start putting all of these on our wreath form. Alright, so now that I have most of my bunches made, I'm going to go ahead and start putting them on my wreath form. This is just making the base of my wreath. So when we have all these on, then I will start adding on the little extra pieces into my wreath. I call it the decoration. So I'm making my base wreath and then I will decorate. So we did the pipe cleaner around the center, and that leaves 2 tails on the back of the bunches. So I'm just gonna attach those to my wreath form. Now I have 20 bunches made, and there are 9 sections around my wreath. So, you know, roughly 2 per section. I definitely think I'm going to need to go back and make more, but I'm going to put these on and see where it gets me. So I'm going to try to keep all of my bunches on the second most inner and second most outer rings. So that's where the center of my bunches are going to be. And I'm just going to put the wire between the two little pipe cleaner tails, and then I'm going to bring it to the back and twist it. Then when I am done twisting all of my bunches on, I'll go back and take my scissors and cut all of these tails off, just so that when I put it on my door, I'm not going to have any scratching on my window or the wood. So once again, you take your bunch, it has the two little pipe cleaner tails on the back of it, and I'm just going to place it on my wreath. Lifting up and twisting the back. When twisting them on there, I want all of my tubes to go parallel to my wreath. That way when I scoot them together, they're going to bunch up and create the fun tube pinch like I was telling you about earlier. So as of right now, I can already tell that I'm going to need at least 3 bunches per section on my wreath. So I'm going to use all of these bunches that I have and then go back and make more as needed. All of the clusters on my wreath form, and I also went around and just kind of fluffed it all up, twisted some that I could tell weren't in the right direction, and just kind of made sure that it looked better. So what I did was I just kind of looked through and I saw like, oh, well this one is angled, so twist it so that it sticks up. This one I could twist a little bit so that all the pieces are sticking up. See how this one is going perpendicular to the wreath form? I just kind of grab all the little tubes and twist it just so that it's sticking up. And just go through and fuss and kind of get them to look the way you want. And then I'm gonna flip it over, and I'm just gonna take any of these pipe cleaners that I see, and I'm just gonna wrap them around the wreath form just so that if they were to untwist or after moving this around from year to year, that they're nice and secure on there and that they're not going to poke the door. Now I'm going to start embellishing everything. So I went to Joann Fabrics and I picked up a few little embellishments. I have some green, I have a couple little critters, I got some red and gold packages, and these are all on bendable wire. Then I also have this, it's from Kirkland's as well, and it says ho ho ho. It's red and green. I'm gonna open this. This will be my centerpiece. Generally, when I make a wreath, I like to use a sign or a statement piece for in the middle. Since this wreath is a little bit bigger, I'm going to use this red and green. It's a strand of, it kind of looks like kids blocks, and they say ho ho ho, and I'm going to use that in the middle of my wreath. So it's just going to go, I think, right in the middle. You can embellish with anything. It doesn't have to be specifically what I'm using. I'm starting to lay this out and I'm setting this down, and I realize that I don't like the way it looks. I just think it's too big. It's not gonna hang right across my wreath, so I'm not going to use this. So for this wreath, I definitely won't have a statement piece then. So it's just going to be whatever embellishments I put around the outside. You could do a big star in the middle, whatever you want. I often look at the Dollar Tree or places for cheap little signs, and that's what I put in the middle. The Dollar Tree is a good place to look for those, and they always have some cute ones. Now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to start placing all of my pieces around. I have those little presents. I have these red glittery balls, and I have a couple of these little floral pieces as well. So these will be big enough that they'll show in the wreath, but they're not a contrasting color that they'll stick out. And I'm just gonna use some zip ties and pipe cleaners to put wire around these and just secure them to my wreath form. I'm gonna take the tags off of them. And before I fully secure anything to my wreath, I'm just going to set them in and see how it looks. And I usually like to balance my wreath out, so like if I put a red bundle over there, I'll put one directly across from it. So usually I have two of everything that I'm using. And then for these packages, they're on a wire stem, so that'll be nice because I can just bend that right around the wreath form instead of using a pipe cleaner. And if you ended up not using as many bundles as I did and your wreath looks a little scarce, this is where you would use all of your pieces to fill in your gaps. These little guys I thought were so cute, and I thought they would just give it so much character. And the nice thing is this stem that it's on goes all the way up its back, so I can actually bend the stem so it's going to be like perching on a 90-degree, and then when I stick it in the wreath, it'll go straight down in, and then when I go to stick it and hold it up, it's kind of hard to see. When the wreath is propped up, this guy isn't gonna sag over because he's nice and sturdy. So he's not gonna flop forward or backwards. And the same with this guy. Nice and sturdy. And then the nice thing is if you buy little clusters of things like this, and I just find these in the floral department, you can spread them out to make them look a little bit bigger. Like this thing, this curly piece right here, I'll probably honestly stretch it out so it looks bigger and more noticeable, and the little balls are kind of hidden back there, so I will tuck those back. And then this I'll probably put up towards the top part of my wreath, just so that it's not like when you're looking at it from the front, this isn't what you see, that you actually see this. I think I'm gonna remove this for right now and stick this guy up here. So that doesn't look too bad. And then to balance the green out, I got this little thing. It plays back into having the little glitter foam balls, but this is actually 3 separate pieces. So it all attaches down at the bottom. You could easily stick this in to like all together, but I will probably cut it apart. So I have these little wire snippers, and I'm just gonna cut them and separate them. That'll be nice because then I can attach a pipe cleaner to these, and these will just be fun little things sticking out. And since I have 3, I will probably just evenly space them all out, and they will just be nice little accents. And then to pull in a little bit more of the green, the thrift store is a great place to find wreath decoratives and additives. I was doing a lot with Christmas ornaments this year, and I found a couple green ones, and so I thought that would be like a nice balance. It might pick up on the red a little bit. So what I do is I glue the topper on, and then I feed a pipe cleaner through the top, and then just wrap that around. And so these would be great for like the inside. So I'll probably stick one right on the inside there, maybe over here. and over here. And that kind of creates dimension. So just like when you're decorating your Christmas tree, you don't want all your ornaments to be right up in the front. Because if you did that with your wreath, you'd really only be decorating the couple inches on the top. So adding a few extra pieces on the inside and the outside creates a really nice balance so when you look at it from all different angles. Now that I have all of those placed in, I also have another one of these that I could use. And I think I'm just going to put them side by side down here at the bottom. And that will create a point so you can really say, this is the top and this is the bottom. And it's all just a matter of personal preference and where you think things should go. This guy's gonna fall out. And then I also have these red balls. Same thing, they're on a wire stem. So I just like to take my wire cutters and cut them apart. And you can find all kinds of little things like this. Some people want to put a lot in their wreath, some people not so much. So these would be great actually to place down inside of some of the burlap tubes. They would be kind of fun and you would hide the stem. To do that, you'd use just hot glue and kind of tack it down in there. But I'm just going to stick these on the outside of my wreath. I have 6. And then once I have all of my items placed, I just go back with my pipe cleaner and I start to attach them all in. Just gonna work my way around. I just take the little stem, wrap it around a few times, stick that down through just like we did with the clusters, and then I'm just gonna feel for the pipe cleaner on the back of my wreath and just wrap it around. I don't want to tip my wreath over though, because all of my little embellishments will fall off. There we go, and that's stuck on there. Alright, and then I'm going to do the same thing for all the rest of my little embellishments, and I will show you guys when I am done. And there you have it. I have added all of my embellishments in. I think it looks really good without a sign, just because this is a larger wreath. Like I said in the beginning, I started out with an 18-inch wreath form. I would have had to put a large statement piece in the middle, and then I would have probably used a few embellishments around the side. I like adding a lot more embellishments without the statement piece. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, please make sure you give it a big thumbs up and subscribe to my channel because I put out new DIY videos every week. Also, if you guys have any ideas for videos or anything that you guys want to see me make, leave a comment down below. Comment down below, let me know what you think. Also, the comment section is a great place to share ideas and how you could change this up. I hope you all have a wonderful holidays, and I will see you next week with a new video.